Some of Ken-Zee's abstractions they hit home. Some do not.
I would say 90% do not. But welcome back to the Something's Wrong Here podcast.
All relative.
At Broken Reel Media Production.
Irregardless.
I am Randy.
I'm Ken-Zee.
And I'm Brian.
And we are continuing the conversation that we were having with the owner of the Ganson Weather Group, Scott Ganson. And we are going to continue talking about weather, and we're going to get into a little more of the computer side of it, the AI,
We're going to get into weather, and we're also going to talk into technological advancements that might lead us away from weather.
I thought Ken-Zee had a question about
I know it's abstract. I know it's crazy.
Weather.
Should we really be taking information that we consider scientific from a guy who has Uranus on his shirt?
I think this T-shirt sums up my personality pretty perfect. This is
actually, you know what? I would prefer,
I'm with you.
I'm sold.
Let me ask you a question, Randy. Let's talk into philosophical for a second here. I'm going to go ahead and just blank my phone screen.
I want to talk about Uranus.
Let's talk philosophical.
Me too.
We don't have a philosophical topic tonight. We don't have an episode ready.
Sorry.
But what we do have is a question.
Only the planet if you mean it to be the planet.
I want to see where this goes.
Okay, yeah, exactly.
Totally.
That's what I'm talking about.
He's totally into Uranus.
Philosophically speaking, would you prefer a weather guy wearing a Uranus, the original gas giant T-shirt, and also a weather guy that's willing to say we get it wrong sometimes, or would you rather someone that's got a really great face, a lot of makeup, they're on the TV every morning, but they don't know anything about
I'll tell you what. I have seen some of the Brazilian weather women, and I don't know what they said, but they made it compelling. So
wow, that's an amazing answer for this question.
I didn't hear a word about the forecast, but I was nodding the whole time.
He heard a word about the foreskin.
It's in the delivery.
As long as you're not wearing green.
Something.
So Randy, shut up for a second here. Brian,
I have seen weather people wear green before.
Yeah.
Big mistake.
Brian, what do you think philosophically? What do you want? A weather guy who can say we get it wrong sometimes, or a weather guy who's got a pretty face and shows up on the TV?
Well, I mean,
they're both going to get it wrong, so does it matter?
No, okay, so yeah, empirically, you're right. Okay, but I think that from a societal perspective, I think we tend to, we should reward honesty over aesthetically pleasing. Now that there should be a balance of those two, absolutely, because what you said, I mean, because
he's honest, but he's obviously unesthetically appealing.
From you, I don't know whether you should be offended or not.
All right,
hold on.
Well, hold on. Let me go ahead real quick. My point is that, you mean. Jesus.
That wasn't a fart.
That was I don't believe
my
you.
phone in
the door is closed, man.
Brian was about to say something really intellectual.
I don't know.
It was
you totally broke the ice,
and it escaped his mind. Now we will not change society for the better.
We know we have. Everybody wants a pretty face, a pretty-ish face for whatever they want. I mean that's a pretty common theme, but I think that even more valuable than that is a humility and saying, you know what, you can say it both ways too. Like use the tornado example. Hey, I thought it was going to be really, really bad. And as a result, I know a lot of people were inconvenienced and a lot of people evacuated, left, took measures that they normally wouldn't have taken. But you know what? You're all still safe.
Yeah.
And if you walk in with that attitude saying, hey, I made a mistake, but at least I know everybody's safe, that's way, way better than some guy with veneers, slick, six-pack chiseled abs, like perfect looking guy.
A fun name like Lightning McStormy.
It's not going to be bad at all. You can just hang out, and then, derecho comes through and obliterates an entire town.
Well,
so.
I mean, it's about it, and I know we want to move forward, but I mean, I feel compelled to defend a little bit. The broadcast meteorologists, they have an incredibly difficult job, right? Where they are trying to convey possibly severe or dangerous weather to an area that is large, right? In the Kansas City area, we've got 3 million folks, and they're trying to convey safety and weather information to a huge crowd of people.
Yep.
Absolutely.
I have an advantage of typically my client is one person or one structure, so my statistics are probably a lot higher because of that.
Yeah.
So it's
You're focusing more on one spot versus
exactly.
Because you know how it is when there's a huge storm that comes through Kansas City. I live in South Kansas City, North Kansas. So if it comes up through, it could be something where they're batting down the hatches. Everybody's going to see hail and rain, and it's going to flood everywhere. And we see, quarter inch of rain. But people up in Platte County
just got slammed.
Yeah, exactly. So,
I do want to touch on that, but I want to go back to what you were saying. So it's odd that you brought it up because I was thinking about it as far as income. Driving home tonight, better looking people make more money.
Yeah.
And that's just a stat based on multiple.
I'm rich, dog.
Right?
What the fuck?
Look at this.
That being said,
For all of the Spotify listeners, the ugliest guy in the room said it.
wow.
Okay, Jedediah. I'm just going to go with that, dude.
He's saying that because they can't see him on Spotify.
All 4 0 out of 10.
No way,
so
dude.
It was the 4 ugliest people in the room.
3 out of 10 going strong, dog.
But with that being said,
Degree
it also
severance.
comes into a statistic as better looking people are more trustworthy as an outward going impression of people.
Humans are stupid. Just saying.
Humans are very stupid. You could take
On the whole.
You could take one of the smartest people in the world next to a good looking person, and that's why we use media, the good looking people, to push products and push ideas
Messaging.
and everything else, because we are going to trust the better looking people over the person that told them the data and what to say about it.
So you're saying Scott's fucked?
So no. But Randy brings up a really. So I've got 2 depositions coming up here in the next 6 weeks.
You should probably look prettier.
I'll likely shave. I probably won't wear this shirt.
Who farted t-shirt would be great, dude.
But the message that
Could have been
you're saying-
Uranus.
Aside from just good looking, it's also how do you explain complex principles in a way that people understand? Because people will tend to be like, oh yeah,
I will argue that one of the greatest qualities a person can have is to be able to change their vernacular to their audience.
100%.
Know the room.
So
Know the room,
dude.
What
Read
you
the
guys
room.
have said that kind of threw me for a loop here. People are stupid. We all know that. We know a lot of people are dumb. We know a lot of people are smart. Let's go back though.
I know a few people that are smart. I know a lot of people that are dumb.
I would say I know more dumb people than I know smart people.
Let's go into meteorological. Let's tie this in. Let's talk about advancements in technological.
Before we get ahead, we brought up dumb.
Bitch.
Why are they wrong so often? Why is meteorologists wrong so often? And why is it okay that they're wrong so often?
All right, so we may or may not have time for all this. So, speaking to...
There may be a part 3.
That's right. So, speaking to other meteorologists, we find that we feel like we're right more, and people don't give us credit. And let's just use the Kansas City example that Brian, you brought up, that a storm rolls through Kansas City, and people on the south side are like, well, that guy was wrong. Well, people in Parkville are like, Jesus, that was
glad you called that
out. Yeah. So I think that unfortunately wrong may have a lot of rooted in perspective and where you are and what's the error, in the error margin, when they say, oh, it's going to be 6 inches of snow. Snow is an extremely localized event that maybe, your cul-de-sac only saw 3 inches of snow, but a mile away it was 6 inches of snow. So what is wrong?
was wrong, dude.
Yeah.
Well, that even brings up the thing that most people don't realize when you're, and I, for the life of me, I get the concept, but is there a difference when it says there's going to be a 40% chance of rain tomorrow? That just means that there's 40% of the area will experience rain, not a 40% chance that it's going to rain on you. So is there really a difference between the two? Because technically you take an area, you're still getting 40% chance of rain.
Statistically, there's definitely a difference, but I get where you're coming from.
So, and that comes down to how you define probability of precipitation, right? Because we're going to pick on POPs, probability of precipitation.
What a sexy
Man, I know that's
I
beautiful.
love that TLA, 3-letter
Pop on Pops, folks.
Pops.
We're ready to talk about probability of precipitation.
Right, and you are not going to have a sexier podcast than this now, I promise.
Can we
you.
just call it Poppy?
It's going to have 1,000 views first day.
But there is somewhat of a misconception about it, and you bring up a valid point. There are some news, there are some media, there are some folks who do define it that way. But meteorologically, how we typically define this, and this is similar to the Weather Service definition, is it's 40% because 40% of historical events or models or verification has resulted in rain.
Okay.
When we see that kind of pattern.
Okay.
Right? It does not have any bearing on necessarily the aerial coverage or extent of the rain in this definition. And so it again comes down to the messaging, right? Are we being consistent? We know that the Weather Service message isn't always consistent with the media message.
Yeah.
And that's dangerous, right? And because it leads to a perception of incorrectness or
So my spidey
inaction.
sense is tingling here.
oh boy.
And
Sit under the
What's
table.
well, so Randy jumped in here with a question, but I think you just brought it back to what I was asking. People are stupid.
Yeah.
So how many people understand what you actually just said prior to you saying it? Because I know Randy's mom just learned something, but other than that, like what
She's
I'm
sharp,
saying,
but she's sharp. She's pretty
She
sharp.
knew that already.
Realistically,
Damn it.
what you just said is that you guys model something that makes you right 100% of the time with what you've modeled in the data you're trying to portray. But what you're trying to portray is something that you have to grab a small attention span and a graphic and all of a sudden portray here's what it is.
Well, hold on. I think in his world where you're observing patterns, pressure, all this
It's
stuff.
a pattern. A lot of this
Like,
forecast.
I think that I think maybe saying that they set up a situation where they're always right. I don't know if that's the right way to frame that.
Not that,
You know what
not
I mean?
that they're always right, but
No, no,
they've modeled it
I think
to where.
I think I get what you mean.
Like
but-
what he's saying is 40%
But you
based
can-
off of the odds, based off of historical
Well, no, like
data.
what I hear, and when I'm using my rational, like logical reasoning brain, is that there's a 40% chance based on what we see right here with the movement of this air, with the movement of these pressure systems. 40% of the time, you're going to see precipitation.
it's like in this situation, 40%
And
of
I-
times this is what we.
And I don't hold anybody to be like, oh, you said 70%.
All right, you guys are all wrong. Listen, I work in construction, so listen.
Beans belong in chili. Don't ever fucking correct me again.
Regardless of what you say.
I work in the construction industry, and our job depends on the weather.
Yeah.
So if there's a 100% chance of rain tomorrow, there's a good chance I'm not working.
You're off.
But if I drink the night before and 100% chance of rain, there will be no rain that next day.
yeah.
I promise. It is a
That's what
guaranteed fail-safe.
So is it your
That's
liver
Edward
that's
Lorenz.
wrong, or is it
That's a
this
metaphysical
guy
like
that's
trickery,
wrong?
dude.
Oh, that's all of the above is wrong.
Open the fridge one more time to get a drink, and that cools the atmosphere just enough.
Schrodinger's storm, dude.
Going back,
Is that what it was? The refrigerator fucked up the atmosphere?
You need to mix your drinks pre.
Schrodinger's storm, dude.
okay, so now going back, let's bring back people are stupid.
Okay.
Because something's wrong here.
I'm
That's
stupid
what we're
enough to
doing
drink
here.
when it's 100% chance of rain the night before.
There we go. But what I want to know is, with regard to people are stupid. Let's just say on a base level of extrapolating and understanding the data that a weatherman is presenting on the TV news with the pretty face, right?
Okay.
So that challenging job, as you said, is portraying accurate information and in the most accurate way.
I would say it's portraying meaningful information.
Meaningful.
Yeah.
Okay.
In a way as accurate as you could be.
And,
Okay.
and to a people who are probably geographically dispersed by 60 miles. I mean, that's a big ask. That's a really tough thing to do.
So now
It is.
Definitely.
next
Because
up,
you can stand here and you can see the rain happening,
Sure.
let alone cover a 50-mile radius.
Yeah.
with people are
If a
stupid,
guy is
though.
taking pictures of a tornado and it doesn't hit him, does that mean the tornado wasn't a threat?
Schrodinger's tornado. I'm telling you, dude.
That's where I'm going with this.
No,
If
didn't happen.
if the sirens go off
Didn't see it. Saw it, didn't
and
see
you
it.
get hurt, but you had all the warning in the world, but you wanted to take a video, or the sirens go off and you get to take the video kind of thing where you don't see it.
Yep.
Also, hurricanes.
Yeah.
we're just gonna ride it out.
It's like getting
we're gonna ride it out.
Tortoise.
So how?
Well, I think a lot of the riding it out is because
how do you portray that information accurately? How do you get that level of technological advancement to where that isn't a fight?
Well, because you have a planned path, but 9 times out of 10 it'll hit 500 miles away, which I'm not saying they're wrong, and you can't predict it. I understand that. You're going off models in the past, movement, what happened before, and now is different than what. But
hold on, let me say this. I loved your question before, which was about people being stupid. Okay, this is the problem.
Yep.
If you're ever wrong, for the majority of people, you're compromised. And I don't mean that. I'm not being facile. Like, I'm not being soft. It's like he was fucking wrong one time. I can never trust that person ever again. And it's like,
and we see this all the time, not just meteorology. I mean, let's go back to politics, right? Is all of a sudden you can't change your mind. Otherwise, you're a flip flopper.
You're traded. You traded the cause.
I want to address
Rhino.
I want to address Randy head on here because I thought Eileen was one of the most accurate models and predictions of everything about it.
that's why I said 9 times out of 10, because they do get it right a lot of times.
And I'm not arguing where you were at with that. I'm just saying, even in Eileen, there were people that were going to ride it out. Again, I'm not saying everyone's dumb. I'm saying, how do you...
We got things. A lot of people don't have the means to pack up either.
Is there technological advancement in your brain, Scott, that exists even at a conceptual level where that message is 100% accurate for 100% of the people?
Well, first let's play the hypothetical. Let's say you've convinced everyone that we have the technology to forecast everything perfect.
Okay.
Right. And then you're up against, Mac, I think you, or Ken-Zee, sorry. I'm struggling here. Dang
I
it.
still do it.
Shit.
20 some episodes.
I'm sorry.
So can we
just say Ken-Zee and keep going.
And keep going?
Clap him, say Ken-Zee, and keep going.
All right, so Ken-Zee, I was down in Bentonville, Arkansas. This was last spring, and there was a chance of tornadoes that night. And so I went to bed. I charged my computer, and I was like, I kind of have this feeling, right? I have this feeling.
Gut feeling.
Just gut feeling looking at the data. And
was it your old bones?
So you were looking at data. It wasn't just a gut feeling.
No,
there was some science behind it.
Wait. Yeah,
some patterns.
You just exposed a can of worms. So we're going to come back to your gut feeling. Right. But I want you to continue the story. We're going to come back to the gut.
All right, so the story basically, and I'm going to try and wrap this all into if we could be perfect. And I put my shoes out, and Graham and Michelle, my wife and my son, were already in bed. So I set their shoes out and just was like, just in case, right? Just in case. And lo and behold, middle of the night, tornado sirens start going off, and I immediately pull over my laptop and stuff that I put right by the bed, anticipating the scenario, and I was like, okay. Well, actually, let me back up. I woke up right before this happened and looked at it, and I was like, "Oh no!" And then the tornado sirens went off. So there's that gut feeling again. Maybe this is that intuition. But anyway, so we get downstairs. Well, the way that they warned everyone was the fire alarms, which sent everybody in the hotel that we were staying at outside
instead of to a safe space.
Great.
So I'm going down the stairwell, right, with my family, and I tell my wife, and I said, Michelle, take Graham, and you guys go get into the lobby. I'm going to run outside and try and get everyone back inside. And so I faced this challenge all of a sudden of how do I convince
everybody to run back into a burning building?
How do I convince 24 people that my bona fides and get them inside in a matter of minutes, right?
That heard a fire alarm thinking,
right,
get the fuck out.
Get out. Don't go back in. So you're
telling people literally,
I'm
as
trying to
Randy said, to
run back into a burning building.
I've got to convince these people, and I think I did. I didn't count them, and I didn't sadly stop to check. I was like, well, my responsibility is to try and then move forward.
Yeah.
And so I ran outside and said, hey, everybody, I am a meteorologist. There is a tornado coming. We need to get everyone back inside. And lo and behold, I think everyone listened. And it was just like, that was the only way I could think of to establish my bona fides. I wanted to hand out resumes, and kind of talk to people.
I got my CV here. You want to talk about that?
But this is also a time management situation.
Right. This is certainly,
as a Chiefs fan, you understand fully.
It was a time critical. We're on the final drive, and the Bills have just scored another 18 points.
And you got no timeouts.
So we got to do something.
No timeouts.
But anyway, so that was the first challenge of the night, is how do you convince someone rapidly?
So you saved lives that night, probably.
I don't know if I saved lives, but it was certainly...
You put people back in when there was a tornado.
You're moving them in the right direction, man.
And but to Randy's point, I think when we get inside, let's say, so now the information, like the tornado sirens are going off, everything is happening as it should happen to warn people of an imminent threat. Mm-hmm. And I've got the radar up, and I'm looking at it with the hotel manager that evening and just saying, she's like, can I release people back into the rooms? I'm like, no, we should not release people back up to the rooms yet. And I can't remember if the gentleman worked for the hotel or if he was just a guest there, but he came in and was like, man, I lived in Bentonville for 20 years, and tornadoes never hit here. So, of course. So regardless of the technology, regardless of how good we are, you still have that you're dealing with, the people who are just
anecdotal data, man.
Yeah, I mean, but to Mac's point, I mean, it's
my gut tells me nothing's gonna hit Bentonville.
Yeah, like regardless of Ken-Zee's points, Jesus.
You guys make it tough.
I'm just glad because I still do it constantly.
Can you wear a name tag or?
I'm gonna be a new name on here soon.
I call him Gen-Z. I call him Gen-Z. Ken-Zee. It helps me.
Oh, I like that. Do people not know your real name? Or
I just try to dissociate myself from other.
I struggle with it because I grew up with a girl.
Oh, okay.
Ken-Zee.
Yeah.
So people tell him like, you're not.
Oh, I didn't grow up with any girls named Ken-Zee or Mackenzie.
You're definitely not as fun to look at.
Did you guys give him shit for being Mackenzie?
Mostly behind his back. We tried not to, but to his face.
Hey, can I make one real quick? Sorry, this is completely off topic, a complete tangent. This has nothing to do with the episode, but I just want to say, because we didn't say anything about it in the first episode, and this is something that is relevant right now. Okay, right now, today, actually yesterday.
It's the weather.
No.
Oh,
the headache that I've had.
You said something. You said something about time management and the Chiefs.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to announce, yes, the Chiefs just got home field advantage yesterday.
Yes, they did.
Is that really what you wanted to say?
Yes.
Okay.
I want to celebrate it, and I was at my in-laws yesterday for Christmas, who don't care anything about sport. What they call sports balls, what they refer to it. So I had to bite my lip and not celebrate in any way, shape, or form while the presidents were going out.
Fun tangent.
Yeah,
that was difficult for you, wasn't it, Brian?
It was. I tend to get a little.
So
I watched the game.
Yeah, I watched about half of it on
Ken-Zee
my phone.
has a question. See, I got it right, so I feel like we need to.
Let's move on. Exactly.
Let's jump.
Well done.
All right.
I got a question.
Go ahead
for
and
you.
clap it in, and then we'll
clap it in.
Clap it in.
3, 2, 1. So, advancement, technology.
Yes.
Let's tie this in.
All right.
Tornado warnings, hurricanes, hail, you name it. Let's make a Venn diagram and let's talk about where we're at in early warning for these things. And let's also talk about where we're at in futuristic killing these things, predicting the future of these things.
Reactive versus proactive.
Okay.
Yeah, and also, what you mentioned in the previous episode where we were talking to you, early warnings are pretty much at a peak level. They could get better with technology, I'm sure, but at current tech, they're peak level. Now it's a matter of belief in them. And then on top of that, with regard to those early warnings, do we start scrapping further development and early warning technology, and do we start transitioning it into this idea in Twisters? Pop culture, Twisters, I know we're going to get canceled. Fuck me. Trademark.
I hope you all loved it.
The only... Okay,
I've not seen it.
We'll come back to the...
Twister, not Twisters.
We are going to have a lightning round, which is fun in this one.
All right.
And that is going to be the fuck-ups of that movie.
Is that a weather pun? Or?
But let's go back to the idea of killing those things. Like, do we transition money from early warning because we got it good? We got it. You can never be perfect with early warning, but we went from, in my lifetime, seconds to minutes. So now do we transition the money into killing tornadoes,
Nuking
killing
tornadoes, dude.
hurricanes, killing these things? Do we figure out how to actually stop them somehow?
Well, wasn't it
maybe?
you that sent me something about CO2 cannons or something over?
There's a lot of crazy shit out there,
He
Randy.
sends a lot of crazy shit out to us.
What was the CO2? It was over like a orchard that was changing the weather, basically.
Oh, that's a different. That's coming up.
Oh.
It's a more level of cloud seeding. We're going to come back to that.
Chemtrails?
And, God damn it! There goes our chance of monetization.
Just saying.
All right, so coming back though,
He
like
said he was excited about it.
talking about early warning versus transition versus advancement in the technological side of things, where we kill or stop a storm.
Yeah, no, this is really loaded. I would say that
Unpack it.
that's right. I'm going to unpack this.
Unpack your mother.
That's kind of weird. That's kind of weird, dude.
So my personal opinion on this is no, we absolutely should not modify the weather. Just like we spoke
seems
to
nice.
in the
She's a wonderful
previous
woman.
episode. She's a nice lady.
Mom seems nice.
And we do have the same mom, yeah.
Yeah, I know.
So, going back though,
So
we
in
are
the
not
previous
going
episode,
to
we
modify the weather in your personal opinion.
I don't think we should, because weather happens to right an imbalance in the atmosphere. And one way or another, like we said, the atmosphere is going to right that imbalance. And if we postpone it, or if we just say, move it or something, we have no idea. We're playing with fire at that point.
Well, isn't kind of what United Emirates, aren't they kind of dealing with some of that stuff right now?
So a lot of folks have, and we're kind of bordering on that weather modification thing, and certainly there's utility in weather modification, and we've seen, I would say subjectively, I've seen some folks talk about benefit of it.
Well, I mean, they're doing it, but then they've had also like catastrophes that they've never had weather-wise, like torrential downpours, monsoons, all kinds of crazy stuff.
Massive hail, actually. So is weather modification? I don't think I can responsibly say yes that was attributed to that. But we're meddling with a natural system that is going to correct itself, right? No matter how we feel like it is. So the responsible thing, in my opinion, is certainly not trying to stop the weather from weathering. Weather gonna weather.
Don't unweather the weather.
So you think, what if we stop a tornado? I mean, is 2 going to replace it, or? I mean, I don't think. I guess it would be the method of how you stopped it would be.
Well, that's kind of
certainly, yeah, and there have
downstream
been
effects, like unintended side effects, right?
there have been conversations about you stop a tornado, and I've seen stuff from you Mac, cover you build a wall, you build a giant wall and
Ken-Zee.
stop a tornado.
So can I ask you like this
Ken-Zee,
really simple question in your context, as somebody as a scientist who would study this? Because I always think back to basic rules of physics, like you can't get rid of energy. It doesn't disappear.
It does not disappear.
It transitions to a different state, and it doesn't
be created
go away.
or destroyed.
So that's what, like, that's my question. Is like when you have that kind of thing happening with a tornado or a monsoon or hurricane, if there's a way to, because I'm telling you, the rule of energy transfer is like it's not going away.
Right. Well, that's a perfect example of like where I lived. I grew up. I've always wanted to see a tornado, but I never have. But we've been hit by so many tornadoes. I don't know how. So on the north side of town, or be northwest side of town.
You talking about Chicago?
No, Springfield, Illinois.
Oh, okay.
So there's cornfields everywhere.
Totally different.
And then,
Land of Lincoln.
yeah. So cornfields everywhere, a city right in the middle. Basically, it comes in, hits that side of town, jumps the whole town, and then will make landfall again on the southeast side.
That's your thoughts and prayers.
Is that elevation? I mean, is that like?
I don't know if it's because of elevation or if it's just because it hits
that's
built.
Thoughts and prayers on Facebook.
Well, that's why you never see. That's what I've also heard is that you'll never see a tornado really go deep into a large area with big buildings. The buildings disrupt the wind.
So Yeah. Okay. There's a lot in
what
there,
he'll know.
right? And this is really
There's a lot to unpack.
So there's so much to unpack.
Right?
Unpack us.
This is better than being packed.
Yeah, sure.
That's right.
You fudge. Wait.
So
There's
tornadoes,
that
yeah, they go through cycles. What we call they occlude. So a storm, a beautiful supercell that produces a tornado is going to go through this occlusion, is what we call it, and that's essentially where you get the cold air, that's the exhaust from the storm. It wraps around the storm and cuts off the inflow. And when this happens, the inflow is the storm's fuel, right? And if you cut off this inflow, the storm is going to have to reorganize. It's going to have to re-strengthen. And when this happens, typically the balance of I'm going to put my hands all up in the air.
I know. I think don't listen to him. I like
Brian talks with his hands
I'm going to put my
constantly.
hands up here. All right.
I didn't. As long as you're not doing this, that one dance.
Punch the
That's what
microphone.
political action.
But where I'm going with
I would
this
rather
is
your hands be up here than under the table.
Oh, okay.
Around.
Does it look like I'm
You
playing
too,
with myself?
big guy.
I don't want to do that.
They're playing.
You too.
But so these storms will occlude. That cold air will come around. It will cut off the warm air, which is the fuel for the storm, and the storm has to reorganize. And when that reorganization happens, typically your tornado may disappear, irregardless of that. And so that's not an uncommon phenomenon. That is not something that blows people away. We get out there and we're like, oh wow, this has never happened in the history of tornadoes. So again, not anything that really surprises someone who knows what they're looking for.
And I've seen it in storms where the alarms have gone off and stuff. Is it true like the sky turns gray during tornadoes, like a greenish gray?
Typically green, yeah.
Is that just something that people say?
Most of the time I've seen a tornado, there is sort of a green hue to the sky. I've heard that people say, oh, it's because the hail's in the cloud or something like that. I don't really know why, and I probably should. So any CCM person out there that's listening, like, oh God,
How did that guy get the certification?
How did that guy pass? Who did he pay off?
Yeah.
Okay,
You
so
only have to have a 70% to pass.
80%. Come on, let's not cut it short.
I want to dive into
C's get degrees.
Okay,
Low B's.
thank you. That's the perfect segue. You just wheeled in and then
that's the
face
segue.
toppled.
Low B's get degrees.
Let's talk about what the hell you are, what this is, and let's dive in for a second on this because I wanna hit you with the cliff notes. You correct me where I'm wrong.
Okay.
You're one of approximately 261 of today's episodes recording CCMs. Certified
take your word for that.
Consulting Meteorologist.
That's correct.
Okay. And that makes you pretty exclusive in this market. Talk about the science behind why tornadoes hit trailer parks.
That was one of the wildest fucking non sequitur segues I've
So
ever
the
heard in
weirdest
my
thing
life.
is when I said it picked up and landed on the south side town,
You're highly certified.
it always landed on the trailer court. That was, I mean, we live in an area.
Why are they attracted to them like
I don't know
magnets?
that there's been any conclusive evidence to show that they are attracted to trailer parks. The science on that, I would say, is that trailer parks are or any mobile fabricated home or structure is not designed to the same specifications as any institution, so they are going to be disproportionately affected.
Yeah.
I would say probably take
severe
10% of the energy to topple one of those to a house.
Not a lot compared to house.
So let's go back to the tech. Let's go back to the tie-in.
Well, you said you were, let's do that. You said you were a forensic meteorologist.
That is true.
That doesn't, it sounds really fucking cool, but it's probably not as cool as it sounds.
No, it's totally badass.
Is it? Let's hear it. I want to hear all about it.
I like that. No, fuck you, totally bad.
Right?
It's so badass.
Hey, it's your pro, man. It's your big pro, dog.
No, because he's probably heard this conversation like 1,000 times. So it's like NCIS for weather, right? We get claims where someone will come in and say, "Hey, was the water in my basement the result of a flood, or was it the result of my roof got blown away and then the water fell in?" So, and those are two very different insurance questions,
Absolutely,
right?
Very
And
different scenarios.
because if you don't have flood insurance, the insurance company will be like, "Man, it sucks that rising water flooded your basement." claim denied.
Act of God.
Doesn't sound as fun as NCIS.
No, it's super sexy. We actually dress really provocatively when we go out for
nice.
Yep.
Do you wear the Uranus shirt?
Oh,
I don't wear a shirt if I go
we're
to
going to
side
come
inspections.
around to the full roast of you.
better, dude.
Oh God.
It gets wet, so he has to take it off.
Yeah. Oh God.
But
Yeah. Oh boy, it's hot.
A wet Uranus.
It's hard to recover after that.
He's on fire man, with the anus jokes.
But
Just telling you.
so the primary thing that I do is usually wind and hail, which is basically how do you move a claim along? How do you move something along for someone who's obviously had property damage, right? And that's the thing that I always try to ground myself in when I'm doing these claims is this is like a real person, right? This is a real person's stuff. This is their belongings that have been destroyed, affected, hurt by something. And my job is to get that reconciliation in there as quick as possible.
So it'd be amazing if more people thought like that.
Give him the data.
Let's talk about that though for a second here. Let's talk about your credentials. And I want to actually, I'm gonna toot his horn. I know this guy.
Right.
Is that what are you gonna do?
Nothing about my Uranus.
You started it.
First he was starting in with his mom. Now he's tooting his horn.
Dude.
Yeah.
Tell him to stop doing stuff.
So I'm gonna try
Continue
and
with the horn
lead this in here as these fuckheads talk. I believe you went to OU because OU is more known for land-based severe storm activity, whereas Penn State is the one known for water-based. Correct?
I would say OU is more known for like radar work and tornadoes, like central severe weather, like central U.S. severe weather.
I thought they were known for the parties.
Okay. And what is Penn State?
comment.
Am I correct on the other one? Is Penn State the
Boomer
other
Schooner.
big weather school?
So Penn State's a huge weather school. They have a fantastic curriculum. I know Dr. Matt Cumgen up there. He's professor, fantastic guy that I went to school with.
Smartest guy you've ever met.
I cannot comment on whether or not the mac and cheese was at all related to that individual.
You just have to dox the guy. It's fucking so on brand for you.
Oh, Cummy, Dr. Cummy will love me for this. He's a
his name is Dr.
awesome,
Cummy.
Oh, he's an amazing guy.
Well,
I'm ruining his life. I'm ruining his life.
But no, they have a
canceled,
fantastic
man.
school up there. And I would say that
Dr. Cummy had soupy mac and cheese.
They're doing some great research, especially on the origins of hail and storms and stuff.
Origins
which is cool.
something.
Okay, so let me go ahead and bring this back around for a second.
If he's laughing, I'm doing a good job.
We're making him laugh, and this is gonna be fun. So we have you at OU, and we have a guy who learns to program computers. We have a guy who learns meteorological studies, and he combines them into a senior project, right?
I did. Yep.
Okay, and you got grants, access. What was it exactly from the Navy that you got?
No.
If you can specifically say phase radar.
No. So a lot of the man who I don't remember who owned the par that they gave to. I say gave. I don't know if it was donated graciously or the Department of Commerce paid a lot of money. But there is one of the research phased array radars at the Radar Operations Center. That was, I believe it came from a Navy, like a naval destroyer. That cool radar technology, and I don't know how much you guys want to get into phased array. We can start talking about radars.
We'll come around.
Okay.
There's a lot of talk of cum.
Will Dr. Cummy...
Will Cummy be coming around?
Lost my train of thought.
He would be great to have on here.
It's so hard to keep myself...
Speaking of so
I
hard,
was supposed to try and bring all that
God
stuff.
damn it! God damn it! All right, Scott, continue.
So hard.
These fuckheads.
So yes, I did learn to program. And that was by and large what sort of got me into grad school. We had an open house, with the company I was working, where you guys don't know.
It's appropriate
But
question.
I had an open house where my to-be advisor in grad school came by and was like, "Hey, I have this software, this code that I got from someone. It doesn't work. I heard you're a pretty good programmer. I got clearance from your boss. Could you go see if it'll work?" And I got this code to work. He was like, "Cool, come be my grad student." And I was like, "Oh, okay." So I went to grad school. It was kind of just
What language was it?
it was all in Fortran 90. It was So there's actually Fortran.
I would imagine he came to an English first.
Hold on, dude. Hold on. This is a bounce back. If any computer nerds want to watch the first episode with Scott, he made a comment about C# being shit, and then he just referenced fucking Fortran. Dude.
Well,
Holy shit!
I challenge you, Brian, to find a programming language that will do array operations faster than Fortran.
Is it the fastest?
That would, I think, hands down.
I'm not sure. I mean, data structures are. We're talking about.
I love it when mommy and daddy fight over software.
Did we just lose all 6 viewers?
I did a lot of work on data structures like trees, like stacks and queues.
Hey,
Structure of
nerds.
arrays, not arrays of structure.
Yeah, Randy's over here, his brain's exploding and steaming. So I want to bring
No man, I taught Java a lot of
So
shit, I like.
Here's a great way to wrap it up for us not so computer inclined people.
All right.
What role is AI playing in weather?
Oh, good question. So I am seeing.
Are you seeing? I mean, obviously you're seeing more of it.
Yes.
But how much AI are you now seeing, and what do you see that going into the future of predictions? And because I mean, AI can break down, millions of patterns in seconds.
Fast, man.
And what do you see the future of that being for saving lives?
Man, okay, so
Hey, can I ask a extended question?
Yeah.
Like just make it a two-parter.
Okay.
One is where is the horizon with AI? Like where is AI going to accentuate your skills and make you better? And then also, I always ask this question about AI because I'm in.
Who's going to take your job?
Not that. I'm in IT, but I mean, how much could it possibly do that?
yeah, okay, so and I thought long about this because Ken-Zee, look at that, got it right.
Fuck off.
Good job, man.
Yeah,
I still screw it up all the time too.
But
You get a silver star for the day, not a gold one. Not a gold one yet.
Not gold yet, but so AI, we're seeing the emergence of it more and more because it does such a great job at pattern recognition. And that is a lot of forecasting in meteorology, which is pattern recognition. How does that pattern propagate? How does it affect? What kind of weather does it create? And AI is doing a fantastic job at that in some degree. Now, let me kind of answer your question, Brian, by going into some of the dangers real quick of AI. And that is that it can become a replacement for understanding. And that's what really scares me.
Rationale.
Right. People see, okay, well, the AI figured out that, so I don't need to go figure out.
So now
the physics
you're
behind
basically
that.
saying in everyday terms that the power goes out at a grocery store. You're not getting your change back because nobody can do math manually.
Yeah, it becomes a.
I mean, that's the simplest form.
It's fair enough.
Well, yeah. What is the physics behind that? Well,
That's a great analogy.
So for the longest time, AI said, well, the weather did this because that happened, but all of a sudden, maybe the AI breaks down, and we're also talking about LLM AI here. Let's be real clear that there are
You have
multiple.
to feed that AI data.
There are multiple types of AI, and we're talking about the weakest.
Well,
of
could
AI.
it start recognizing patterns that aren't? I don't know how I want to put this, but basically, it starts recognizing patterns that really aren't imperative to what you need, and it starts putting out data that isn't.
You're asking if the AI is going to hallucinate.
Basically, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, in the most abstract way, will it hallucinate and say, "Hey, we're seeing these patterns. This is what it's going to do." And in reality, and you apply it to a real world situation, it only looks good on paper, but it could never happen in the real world.
Absolutely. I mean, and we see this with I would say the kind of the precursor, which is it's glorified statistics, which is machine learning right now, which it oftentimes is used as maybe a hammer when we don't need a hammer, and that is the example I've commonly used is the Kelvin scale, which doesn't have a negative. It stops at zero, right?
Absolute zero.
Absolute zero.
So if machine learning or AI found a relationship that involved negative Kelvin, is that going to blow minds? Does that mean that statistically that's an invalid relationship? No.
I think that's one of infinite questions that would potentially blow minds.
So it stops at zero. I mean, statistically, though, there should be negative, shouldn't there?
Well, mathematically,
there's.
When you create the scale to stop at zero.
Let's go ahead and let's get nerdy for a second.
Conceptual
Let's get nerdy for a second. Nerds are sexy, right?
I don't know. I'm not a nerd.
What was that equation you brought up in the first first episode?
How sexy are you upside down with your head in a toilet?
I look good.
Because I think me and Brian could get a swirly going on.
is he gonna
That
tuck
beard
his
would
shirt
look
in?
Swirl the Amish guy. It looks worth it.
I think he's taken aback. This is
Jedediah does not want to get a swirly.
It'd be the first bath he's had in a week.
Stokes equations, right?
As a guy,
I'm curious as to know what your thoughts are with that and relativism.
Oh boy.
To pi.
That's a big word.
Okay. Pi.
Or
Cake.
things that are non-ending. Non-ending.
Quiche.
I don't want to bring up forever references here, but you can extrapolate the thought process. Where are you going with those in technological advancements? Do they ever get solved?
So
you said the reason I say this, I'm sorry, I'm going to interrupt you again.
No.
You brought up negative Kelvin. Could it blow minds?
Well, it's not a thing.
Could you solve the same question now? Could you blow minds? Could you solve these equations? Could you land the final number of pi, or could you solve the equation you brought up in the episode?
Well, all right. So we not to correct what I mean, pi and e and something. These are irrational numbers by definition. They go on forever, right? But the Navier-Stokes equations are. There may be analytical solutions out there. We just haven't found them. We have found numerical solutions to them, and computers allow us to do that. And that's what the numerical models are solving, are numerical solutions. So, and what I mean by that is we're not writing out symbols on a whiteboard and like figuring out these equations.
It's not symbolic logic.
Right. Yeah. We're just saying, okay, well, if I put this number on the left-hand side of the equal sign and this number on the right-hand equal sign, they come out correct, right? And so we can solve these things, and we can, but therein lies the root of where all your errors come from too. Because when you put those numbers in there, if we have an undersampled atmosphere, we're interpolating values. We're saying, okay, well, in Lee Summit, it's 38 degrees Fahrenheit, and at Kansas City International, it's 43 degrees Fahrenheit. So at downtown, it must be 41. But we don't know that for sure, right?
Relativity question.
Could be 45.
So this also comes back to being stupid in this field. We're undersampled constantly.
Probably every field is undersampled, yeah.
Right.
But we are relying on computers to fill in those gaps more and more, and they are a fantastic tool. I mean, I don't want to take away from what AI, the advancements it can do, because it's hugely beneficial. It summarizes my emails like a champion. And
Definitely. Right? You can definitely talk nicer to people than my emails.
Yeah. Per my last email.
Could you rewrite this for me? Yeah.
With all due respect.
It may have fixed a few grammar errors for me here and there.
I think the fear that I really have is people using AI for a substitution for understanding, and that scares me, right? Because we're still the people that are going to have to interpret this stuff. We're still the one. I mean, AI is going to change. It's not going to take our jobs. It's going to change our jobs.
I'm glad you said that. Oh, the interpret it. So we brought it up earlier that, a lot of the weather people are good-looking people that are conveying a message.
Beautiful.
And I think most of them are the ones that are actually doing the work as well, because they went to the college and everything. Are they just a talking mouthpiece? Or are they the one that actually looking at the data and deciphering it and figuring it out?
Yeah.
Like you see a person telling you the weather on the news. They're the ones deciphering it, or are they getting it from somewhere else?
All the broadcast meteorologists that I've had the pleasure, really, they've all been fantastic people that I've known personally. All interpret this data themselves. They're the ones looking at it. They're making the forecast themselves.
So they have to send in headshots before they get accepted into college. Is that how it works?
That's a really good question.
I'm going to be a meteorologist on air.
Right? Or do they just send the ugly ones to radio?
They could, yeah. And we're all like, go be a CCM. You're ugly.
That's why we have Spotify.
All right, so let's dive into a little bit of narrow broad certifications here.
Yeah.
You're one of
what 200. What the hell does narrow broad mean? Is that fat skinny?
Would you give me a second here? You're one of 261 CCMs.
Okay. Yep.
You worked for the Iraq Radar Operations Center, for those needing an acronym.
Correct.
You've had top secret clearance. You know a lot about
not top secret, but
you've had some serious clearance.
Lots of levels of clearance.
So let's talk advancement in technology. We hear about things like Doppler radar on the Weather Channel. Mm-hmm. We hear about phase radar. You're an expert in dual pol.
I am, yes.
And
Sounds made up. Sounds like some Harry Potter shit.
It's made up. So why don't
Golden snitches.
Why don't you just take it the fuck away and debunk this dipshit that I have as a co-host? And why don't you go ahead and tell him why it's not made up? And why don't you tell him what talk about some of these things that we don't know, because the tie that I want to make here is we get a lot of things a decade after the military does.
Yep.
And
absolutely.
And I'm not here to step on toes.
I would argue
this podcast
25 years.
This podcast isn't here to dox anything.
No.
Isn't meant to make you say anything you don't want to or can't. So obviously, words carefully going forward. This man has clearance. The thought process is, I'm wanting to know military ties, advancement in technological ties are is weather the first thought process when it comes to the technological advancements in radar? Is it?
I guess that's a cool. So to sum it up, what he's trying to say, do we have a bunch of stuff out there that's some really cool shit in the military that just happens to help the weather department?
The skunk works are lively.
We got, like you said, Doppler and stuff. I mean, we're more looking into like surveillance and stuff, but then it just happens to help with the weather and all the other stuff that goes with it.
Yeah, so it's not so much the technology; it's our application of the technology, right? So, someone probably could write me in and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the first really applications of radar were sort of in the weather space. When you think of Pearl Harbor and you think of where they had early detection, where they saw, oh wow, we thought that was a flock of seagulls, no, it was rain. It turns out that these radars have application in weather. So it's the same technology that we're applying to a different problem. Mm-hmm. That being said, there are certainly radar technology, and there's radar technology I'm sure I'm not even privy to, that we don't know yet how to apply to the weather. We are just now beginning, as Ken-Zee said, to get the to understand how phased array radar. These are, instead of radars that are, you think of them on a pedestal and they spin around really fast and scan stuff. These are radars that are electronically scanned. So they don't have moving parts, and so they can scan things really, really fast. Mm-hmm. It's not hard to imagine what you need a really fast scanning radar for in a military application, but what do you need it for in the weather? And we're just now beginning to dissect, those problems. And for the longest time, it was, well, that technology has been out there, but how do we apply it to the weather? How's it meaningful? The radar that I happen to be part of early on, as it adopted to the next redneck, was called as polarimetric radar, or dual pole radar. And this is a radar that allows us to start to see the shape of things. So many people don't realize that most radars out there only saw one sort of dimension of something. They could see, oh, it was this wide, or it was this tall, or something like that. Well, a polarimetric radar allows us to see the shape, or start to discern the shape of things.
I mean, to bring that up, I know police started using LiDAR 20 years ago, but now they're using LiDAR to find structures and stuff that are hidden in the forest and everything.
Yeah,
and we use LiDAR to determine the height of the clouds.
Let's talk about a way more cool application of radar. Why are the coolest planes we know minimal radar? You know what I mean?
Without being escorted out of here in like a suit or something, in the back of a Suburban.
Have you ever been kicked
just all
out
the reflection off of it?
Have you ever been kicked out of a plane situation?
I did actually get removed from a military.
Okay, we'll come back to that.
This is an inside joke.
So talk about, though, like in the situation of radar planes and such like that.
I mean, the technology, is it reflecting different, or is it emitting it to a different area, or?
Those are all great questions. So there's multiple ways you can make something undetectable by a radar, and that you can forward scatter all the energy, which means when the radar energy hits the thing, it all goes in a different direction except for back toward the radar.
Doesn't reflect appropriately.
Right? Doesn't reflect, yeah.
Is there a certain material or a certain wave you need to do that, or is it a...
No, so that's generally comes down to the shape, and it comes down to the properties of the material.
Okay.
It also comes down to the radar wavelength. It depends on which type of radar system actually scans the damn thing. The other thing is there's radar absorbing materials, and these are materials that basically convert that electromagnetic energy into something like heat.
Okay.
Or maybe light, or anything else, right? Because energy is neither created nor destroyed. We covered this, right?
You just alter it.
You got to do something with it to prevent it from going back. Other things are you can start to actively camouflage something, and that means if you get a wave coming in from a radar, it's a certain wavelength that is a certain amplitude and thing, you transmit out a wave that is exactly out of phase.
Well, and
it cancels that wave.
I'm no expert, and I'm just regurgitating what I saw on the internet, heard on the internet.
We know you're no expert.
You're no expert,
Oh, shit.
and I'm going off the internet.
Moment.
So
I saw it read on
Donald Trump say this.
404, intelligence not found.
So right, 404 air.
Did Trump say something?
I've also heard that, like with the stealths, that what makes them so effective too is that their ability to fly low. You always hear, like in movies and everything and on the internet, they're flying below the radar. Is that a real thing?
That is a real thing, depending on, again, the scat. So the Department of Commerce, who runs the NEXRAD radars in, I don't remember, say circa 2012, was finally able to scan below 0.5 degrees. So if you think about the horizon, if you scan flat across the horizon, it'd be 0 degrees.
Okay.
The weather radars all had to scan up. They weren't allowed from the FCC, the communication, FCC folks, those guys.
Yeah.
They weren't allowed to scan below a certain level.
Okay.
Military radars, I don't believe are have that restriction.
Not limited at all.
Yeah.
Shocking.
So there is an ability to fly, but there's also what we call beam geometry. So if you think about a flashlight, right? Your radar is your flashlight, and you shine that in a dark room. What does the beam do as it goes out?
Expands as it gets further away.
Right? Yeah. So what also happens is these beams will expand. They'll start to run into the ground. You'll start to get reflection of ground targets and things like that. And so commonly, what we can say, like you almost want to hide in the ground clutter.
That's what I was saying. If you're down here, what you're
enough.
Reflecting is trees, this, that, and the other, and then anomaly isn't reflected back as predominant as it would in the sky with nothing around it. Is what I'm assuming.
There are techniques that you can do, sort of like a monopulse radar technique, or there are other techniques where if you imagine shining a flashlight in the ground and you move it up, something that's flying is going to retain a very different signature because the ground is going to disappear as you move the radar beam up.
So they have air detection algorithms that are saying that. We know that.
Not rocket surgery.
And I'm assuming this has all been resolved, but the early 90s, early 2000s, I'm sure this was a real thing where you could, like I said, fly under the radar.
I just don't want to use the word algorithms and confuse them.
So a lot of military aircraft also, the easiest way to, with the art of war, right? From
Sun Tzu.
Is the easiest way to not be detected by a radar is to not fly where the radar is. So many military aircraft have extensive databases on scan strategies of radars and how to fly where the radar is not. And that's the most effective way to not be lit up by a radar.
It's wild. I mean, that's the level of granularity on some of those things is mind-blowing.
So that's
very fascinating.
People don't get that there's that information out there.
Let's take all
So
of
with that right there, I just wanted to ask one more thing. We are covered with satellites now.
Yeah.
Our whole world is covered with satellites. I don't know, 20,000, something like that. Or
There's a lot.
That's a lot.
There's probably way more than that. I think it's in the hundreds of thousands. Sorry. But why are we just not using satellites to see real-time data and just be like, hey, there's a tornado right here 50 miles away. There's a good chance.
Do you want any expectation of privacy at all?
Well, do you think we have
Big
it?
Brother is watching. I mean, like whether Big Brother cares very much or not.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Is there a real world application to use them as weather? As just real time? We're just gonna see it in real time and let you know that it's about to hit you.
So satellite. I mean, from a weather perspective, why is it that we don't use visible satellites at night? You know, I mean, there are simple physical constraints to these things, and infrared technology is not of, well, it is in some applications, but from a weather application, certainly the infrared spectrum at which the sensors on those satellites operate isn't as high a resolution. You're talking about like 4 kilometer resolution, so what, roughly 2 miles or so. So basically, in a 2 by 2 mile area, we only get one value,
which isn't going to work.
Right,
for
that's not going to work for tornadoes.
Pretty low resolution. Yeah, definitely.
So that answered my question.
Why are weathermen always wrong? You get one value in a 2 mile square.
We get the military leftovers, right? So
God damn Nancy's.
I mean, that's all the internet is, and we're doing pretty good with it. So,
all right,
I mean,
so
we're trying.
Let me strip this away here. Let me question you on this one.
Yep.
Humility meets humor.
Oh boy.
Let's talk about a military aircraft that you've been kicked out of.
So you were blessed with the burden of knowledge on this story. I was taking a tour of an aircraft that happened to provide radar surveillance in the air. Folks in the know can probably figure out what kind of aircraft those are. I did get asked to leave that aircraft after asking too many questions, I guess, maybe like pointed questions about capabilities and making some inferences. I love radars and I love electromagnetics, and it happened to give me escorted from. I know.
Nerd alert!
I know. Sorry, you just lost all the rest of your listeners.
Sorry, two listeners. It's pretty cool. Pretty cool. I mean, nerd alert, but the shit's pretty cool still.
It is. I mean, radar's fascinating.
When you look at it from like an application, like I watched some clouds move, it's pretty boring. But like the capabilities in real world applications are pretty fucking cool. What we can do with it, and the way we can protect ourselves from the weather, protect ourselves from enemy threat.
Are you talking about nuke and tornadoes again? You fucking
we should circle the nuke, but there are applications of radar we haven't even touched. Things like synthetic aperture.
I think we should give civilians RPGs and just see if we can.
Tornadoes coming,
especially out in Oklahoma. There's some wide open space. We'll test it out there.
There are probably some folks in Oklahoma that have RPGs. I don't know.
I was about to say, dude, I think you're underplaying what the arsenals that are out there.
I'm interrupting at a quiet point.
Do it.
I have to pee.
Oh, okay.
You're gonna have to take a break. The good news was I purposely fucking waited for a beautiful moment, and you guys did RPGs in Oklahoma, so I was like, proud of myself. Fuck y'all. I have to pee.
I got nothing.
RPGs in Oklahoma.
This is what happens when you have a bladder the size of a.
I also.
Can you pour me a beer while you're up?
So. There we were. These fucking idiots.
There we were.
All right. So they're all laughing because of the clap in on the audio cut. And here we go. The question that we have next for you.
Oh boy.
It's a fun one.
Oh boy.
It doesn't get political at all.
Off an airplane.
It doesn't get political. It doesn't have any bias. Let's talk about cloud seeding.
Yeah.
It's a fun one.
Is that chemtrails?
A lot of people found out about it
had to do it.
3 months ago.
Can't help it.
Really? 3 months ago.
And prior to that, most people knew about it from the 1940s.
What was the incident 3 months ago?
Is when we changed the weather. You know, when people changed the weather to create more storms in this country.
That didn't happen.
You don't think so?
No.
Oh, you can see, motherfucker.
Did you make sure to do your research?
I'm just saying.
Did you watch a good 20 hours of YouTube videos?
I love seeing what the populace says.
Certainly.
It's amazing how they battle against disinformation, but all those videos are still right out there in the open.
Let's talk about cloud seeding. Let's talk about what it is from someone who knows more about this. You know more about it than anyone in this room.
But all right.
But you know more about it than anyone in the room.
I'll take that.
Give a more informed take than us fucking chuckle.
Now, it started a long time ago, 1940s, and what is it?
So, I think even to not correct, but maybe just give more information.
Oh, no, correct him.
Correct.
No.
The earliest information I know about cloud seeding happened from, I believe it was the Revolutionary War, actually, where
Revolutionary, that far back.
It's been a while, yeah, or it might have been the Civil War. There was a war long before Twitter. And
Hold on. If Twitter wasn't around, how'd you know about it?
You mean life existed before Twitter?
How did you know
before
about
the
it?
internet, before X?
So you're saying this is like IRL?
Elon Musk must have
This
told
is
him.
like something that
It's
happened.
like a thing IRL.
Like people had to write this down. They
Back in the day when
I don't believe it.
and write it down.
I don't trust the experts.
when universes were battling in the stars and
Yeah, I mean,
All right, so
right after
continue.
that. Actually.
Oh, okay.
What is cloud seeding?
So there was this relationship that people discovered after large battles that involved gunpowder. They were typically the next day, not typically, but sometimes the next day, at least enough that these folks took notice that it rained after these large battles that involved gunpowder. And
Interesting.
and what
did they
what
notice
was-
it like the discoloration of the rain or the smell of the rain?
It was just like rain
or
was
just
there.
rained?
So for when you take these clouds or you take water up and you loft it up in the atmosphere, right? Well, it's still water until it gets to when most people say 0 degrees, or 0 degrees Celsius. That is
32 Fahrenheit.
I work in the Celsius, so 32 degrees Fahrenheit.
God damn it.
Be clear.
Foreigner.
Stupid
So
foreigner.
273.15 Kelvin.
I did my
Anyone who's
research.
listening.
Now he's getting real
could
abstract.
you tell us in every metric so that no
That's right.
listener can be pissed off? Could you
So
do that?
I think we covered everything.
I think we
But-
did. We're good.
When you take water up, a lot of people are under the impression that it will freeze as soon as it hits 0 degrees, right? Because that's what ice, But we get what we call super cooled water, and this water can actually exist in a liquid phase till about minus 40 degrees Celsius.
Interesting.
Conveniently, is also minus 40 degrees Fahrenheit. But
Makes total sense.
yeah, it totally
Absolutely.
But as soon as that water, if it's super cooled water, is there, as soon as it's disturbed, if it comes in contact with another water droplet, or if it comes in contact with, say, a particulate in the air, it's going to freeze around that particulate, right? And so when we talk about cloud seeding, and one of the reasons that these battlefields back in the time of gunpowder being more prevalent over these large battlefields, they added this particulate to the air, which allowed super cooled water to come in contact with this, and all of a sudden it would freeze into these water droplets, or these ice droplets, or these ice particles within the cloud. And those are what are the genesis of rainfall, especially in Missouri and in the central U.S. and things like that. And so when we're talking about cloud seeding, all we're talking about is getting more of this like particulate into the air for these water droplets to come in contact with and begin this process of what we call ice nucleation, and that leads to eventually rainfall. I left out a whole lot of details because everyone's eyes were glazing over. But no. But that's where the genesis of cloud seeding came from, which is these observations that noticed that after battlefields that, hey, there's this stuff in the air and it's somehow causing or leading to more rain.
It's
the next
raining
day.
for some reason. That's interesting.
Now, with everything that you just said, though, there's no chance you create a hurricane out of this.
Okay, maybe you could. I don't know. Maybe if you put enough of it, you could create a hurricane. I think when we talk about weather modification and controlling, I mean, to steer a hurricane takes an amount of energy that humans are not probably quite capable of creating yet, or at least
Or directing if they could create
we
it.
might be able to create it, but we certainly cannot
Harness
control and determine where it goes. Yeah. The amount of energy released in a hurricane in a single day, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I would presume it's enough to light and power a large U.S. city for many months.
A long time.
This is an incredible amount of energy that we're talking about in these systems. So,
Final thoughts from either of you before I wrap this up?
I'd like to say something. The funny thing, like because I think you and I could talk, like we could talk more about APIs, interfaces.
Software is my
it's
bread and
not.
butter.
Data, like machine learning, like this kind of stuff. 'Cause that's what I find fascinating. It's the interpretation of data, right?
Yeah.
Like raw, because most in the APIs typically give out raw figures, and it's up to you to determine what you do with the raw figures to determine your data, right? Like you're going to get a ton of data points, and however you interpret the data points is how you do it. I think the weather is absolutely fascinating vertical for that idea. I mean, I can get a radar array, like I can get raw data off a radar array.
Sure.
And it's like, what are you going to do with it? What are you going to do with it? Because you can get it, but if most people would have no clue what to do with this, to me, the technology angle of this is super, super interesting. And I'm hey, thanks for coming. Like,
Yeah.
I think that's
so fun being here.
that's a cool way to harness, and you, like I think about it as a way to harness both, our creativity as people who are crunching numbers, who want to crunch numbers to predict and to pattern match, right? Because that's what we do. That's what we all do as humans. But the idea of also using large language models and AI to me, it's more of accentuating. Because large language models aren't going to come up with new ways to interpret the data. What they're going to do is because they don't come up with a lot of new things, but they can run scenarios with everything we've seen before. Yeah, see, I'm talking with my hands just like he does. Hey, we talk the same language there, Randers.
I saw that.
Inputs, but
but
they're not thinking.
The point is, it's like it's all up to the vision, almost the creativity of who's interpreting. That's a Ken-Zee word. Scientology of interpretology, something like that.
Interpretology.
But anyway, it's super stimulating, like food for thought. Like, thanks for coming.
Yeah,
it was
my
really
pleasure.
fun. Really fun.
All right.
Talk.
Fuck you, dork. How much does a rain cloud weigh?
Oh shit, I don't know.
I read it the other day and I can't remember the exact number, but I know it's hundreds of tons,
as much as your face
hundreds of
goes.
thousands of tons.
Rough order of magnitude, right? So water is essentially 1,000 times more dense than air.
Correct.
So just pick a cloud size and run your numbers.
So yes, going with that, how in the fuck does it stay up there in such a confined area?
Do Randy's shoes weigh more than a rain cloud does? Is what I want to know.
Yes.
As a whole?
What size
on
shoe
the
do you
whole?
have? I don't know.
I think he's talking about the quantity of shoes.
It's
It's like hundreds of shoes.
So let's take like thunderstorms, right? And those are supported by what we call an updraft, which is essentially where you have warm air near the surface of the earth and you got cool air aloft. So just like a hot air balloon, right? That warm air rises to go up, right? And that movement of the air up is what holds the raindrops up. So they don't fall back down to the earth until A, they leave that updraft, or B, they get large enough that they fall back through it. And that's the fundamental principle. What we call, it's just buoyancy, the same thing that didn't keep the Titanic afloat. That's buoyancy is what holds all that rain.
I think that was a hole, but
among other things.
more or less it was
Okay, so
scientifically, I get what you're putting down.
yeah.
let's go ahead and slowly wrap this up.
Okay.
You're here. You've got a hell of a company. You've got a hell of a tech behind it. What do you want to tell the people? What do you want to publicly disclose, and how cool do you want to sound? Because this is your chance to shine.
Oh man.
And it's your chance.
So
You're his brother, so you're kind of behind the eight ball.
I was just going to say that, and here's your chance to finally, publicly say whatever you want about Ken-Zee too.
Oh, he's.
Jedediah.
Oh, I can tell stories, or I can plug my. Actually, no.
We'll plug the business. We'll save it. We'll save all that for another episode.
Person, he's going to do the right.
I'm going to use him for consulting in the future,
I do, and that's
not for your business, more for humiliating.
for humor. Yeah. No. The thing I love that maybe has made me successful is that I love my science, right? It's more than I love the money, more than I love the paychecks. I'm passionate about my science, and one of the things that's contributed to my success over the years has been doing it at night. Like, it's my hobby. Not only is meteorology that, but
So
it's
you're
my
making
hobby.
them at night?
I'm making software at night. I'm making APIs at night, and I love what I do. And
Hold on. What are you writing? What language are you writing in?
my favorite language is C++. That is hands down my favorite language.
Okay. Pointers. Holy smokes.
If I'm doing rapid prototyping, it's going to be Python.
Yeah.
I feel like that's how you order Thai food. Medium plus C plus plus.
It's a little spicy.
Get a little spicy.
I hear
we talked about people are stupid. I'm just saying.
Yeah. So when you tell Randy an F5's coming and he says, "I'm gonna stand her out and I'm gonna,"
F5 just means refresh on my keyboard. That's what that means.
So
It's one of them airplanes, right?
If you ever get a forecast for an F5, you need to immediately probably call me. Because it is a damage scale, so they don't forecast an F5.
I was going to say they don't,
and we're even using the wrong lingo. It's an EF5 now. We've gone past the F scale. So yeah. If someone calls you up and says, "Hey, they're forecasting an EF5," you need to immediately probably be like, "You should call Scott because that's not how we do forecasts."
So yeah, you're the idiot.
Yeah. So turn it back around and be like, "They don't forecast damage."
So. Thank you for being here. We appreciate all of this.
Just derailed Ken-Zee's closing thought.
Yeah, you did.
Excellent work, man.
All in.
Kudos.
Cottage industry is like getting him. If you can get him to go, I totally forgot what I was going to say next. You did a great job.
We're all the idiots. We just like to have the cool people on here. So
Definitely.
thank you for being here. Ganson Weather Group. There's a lot of cool stuff to check out. Sounds like an app's coming.
I hope so. That's my goal.
Do you chase?
There we go.
I
Chase
will.
weather
So
at
if you guys want to go chasing, let me know.
Let's go chase
find
some weather.
tornadoes.
Oh, it's
guys
like
do that live all
maybe
you
Reed
want.
Timmer's in our forecast too.
Let's go do it.
Let's do it.